board with Stanislav Cifka and is looking to distance himself. So he needs to focus in on this match, of course, and pick up the win, and then he'll be checking the leaderboard to find out if Cifka's won.
Looks like what I would consider to be totally reasonable hands on both sides. Not excited about either one, not feeling like either one is an auto win or anything like that, but totally reasonable hands as you see that Austin picked up the one half of the combo there, Marshall, and Thassa's Oracle.
This is why it's so powerful. It's not only just 2 cards to win, 4 mana total on the turn that you do it, but it's cheap, right? I mean, that it's only 4 mana, right? You can do this on turn 4. You could just win the game if you're gold fishing, if there's nobody across from you. We're going to see Shark Typhoon just get cycled here in an attempt to find some land drops here for Sperling. And wow, that turned out nicely. He went Brainstorm into Fabled Passage.
Yeah, interesting right now because you kind of want to also cast Explosive Iteration on this particular turn, right? And ideally, you find a land, you do your thing that way, but it is also kind of safe to just go play this Fabled Passage, which we'll just call a fetch land because it's the only one that exists in this format. Brainstorm, draw 3, put 2 back, crack that fetch land. Life is ideally pretty good. Feels a little bit like Legacy in that regard.
Yeah, to also give us an interesting look into what Sperling values. Clearly another land drop is something he'd like to find with the Brainstorm, but there's more. He has 2 Narset Parter of Veils. How much does he care about that card in the matchup? Is one going away or both? Is he going to keep both? These are the type of questions that we get to answer here for Matt, and it'll give us an insight into how he views the matchup and what he thinks is important. I mean, I know Matt's sitting in his living room there, but this is one of the biggest matches of his career. Now, he's played in the finals of PT, so this isn't number 1, but for him, this is up there. This is going to be in the top 3 or 4 matches that he's ever played because he needs to pick up a win here to try to make his way to Worlds.
Looks like we're going to see a discard spell here in Thought Erasure. Brainstorming in response, again, feeling very Legacy-esque for our old school Magic players out there who love a good Brainstorm plus Fetchland interaction. So Sperling's going to put 2 cards back, and then it looks like that Thought Erasure is going to resolve. Again, it is kind of curious about what card he is going to put back here. Does he actually want to fetch right away? Does he actually want to draw one of the cards that he does put back? Looks like that question is going to be answered right now, and maybe looks like there's not. There is another Brainstorm in hand, so it is entirely possible that he does, Marshall. He could Brainstorm again.
Interesting. We see that. We see the fetch to shuffle away the stuff he didn't want, and then a Brainstorm again. Now, this one will likely hide the cards that he wants to protect from Thought Erasure here, and it looks like he's going to value Teferi and Memory Lapse, but keeping in mind here that he has 3 copies of Narset now, so it's just going to leave no choice for Austin.
Mm-hmm.
That worked out well. I mean, this is, Brainstorm's one of the most flexible cards really ever printed, and it does so much more than what it just says on its face value. And this is one of those things. It's just we're not used to seeing that here. Anybody who's covered Legacy, you covered it for years, said you know all the little tricks with Brainstorm, but these are relatively new interactions to Historic.
This turn's going to be interesting to me a little bit. I'm really curious if Matt is going to play Narset or not because he has 2 copies in his hand. He could very easily just play Steam Vents tapped, play Memory Lapse, or have Memory Lapse available past the turn back. It would be having Memory Lapse and cycling Triumph available, or he could just play the Triumph, or he could play Narset and put his shields down and hope that he just doesn't get 1-2'd. I don't think it's worth the risk, and neither does Sperling. Okay.
Yeah, he just looks at it and says, if you just go land Oracle with the trigger on the stack, you could just kill me. Like this game could just outright be over, and it's just too big of a disaster to give that up when you have Memory Lapse in hand, when if you wait a turn, you can play Narset and have Memory Lapse.
Yep.
Patience here from Sperling, and we're going to see the same thing from Bursavich, who's just going to pass the turn back after playing a land. This is really nice, too, for Sperling. Getting a chance to use that Raugrin Triumph to get a card into hand is going to let him use his mana for the turn to at least get something going. Now he has an interesting choice. He could just go for Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, untap 2 lands, have that ready, or he can go for Narset, and he's going to go for Narset.
Now, do we care to battle over this? It looks like Austin's going to kick things off by sacrificing the Fabled Passage. And then do we want to lapse this? What do we want? Do we care about Narset at all?
Right.
It's
an interesting question. Yeah, because Bursavich can pick a fight, and Sperling really isn't going to interact with it. He's just going to go, okay, yeah, you did it.
Yep.
And that does say, that there's something important happening there with the Narset.
It's important enough to take
Yeah.
care of. Or at least delay, I should say.
Right. And it does interact with some of the cards on Austin's side as well. He has a significant amount of card draw in the deck to help him filter through to find his combo pieces. So Sperling's content to just have Memory Lapse in hand. Remember, Bursavich doesn't know about it specifically, but there were 2 cards put back on top of the library, and he's going to have to be aware of those. Ooh, Memory Lapse. Look at this. On Solve the Equation. This is going to get Spell Pierced potentially, but this is getting really interesting because that was Matt's last way to interact. This is going to leave him bare to the combo.
Yeah, so if you just dig up Tainted Pact right now, you got your 1-2 clear for takeoff, if that's the route you want to go. And now, of course, Sperling doesn't know that Austin has Thassa's Oracle in hand. He knows about Tainted Pact, so he's just going to start kicking things off here with Narset and hope to find some piece of reactive permission. There's another copy of Memory Lapse. That's going to be face up, so everybody knows about that.
Whew, he's going to breathe a sigh of relief to have hit that.
And that's game. and see you later.
Thoughtseize off the top of the library here for Austin. And that's going to lead to Matt Sperling having to put his hand bare here. That means Memory Lapse can go away. And with 4 mana left over and both combo pieces in hand, Austin has the green light.
See, when I was talking about it at the top, and this isn't me about being right or anything, it's more about just like the power level of the deck is so high and the combo to win the game is so cheap. It's not like Austin needs 8 mana to go off. In a lot of instances, he just needs 4. But best of all, I mean, more often than not, it's going to be 5, right? It's going to be, I guess, he's just going through the motions here. You see Sperling kind of shaking his head, but it's cheap. And all of the spells in his deck are cheap. Yeah. And that's the appeal, right? He tutored. You love to have a good tutor in a combo deck, of course. Solve the Equation, an expensive tutor, but it's a tutor nonetheless. And then, he was able to put together the combo, and the combo's cheap.
Wow. That Thoughtseize off the top of the library was super clutch for Austin. It's going to earn him the first game win here as Matt Sperling can do nothing but look on as Austin churns through his library. He has an extra timeout available, so that's not going to be part of the equation here. And Austin's put together exactly what he needed. 5 mana, 2 for Oracle, 2 for Pact, 1 for the Thoughtseize. Call it a game.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if this matters. This might be like blanking the rope or something, because it's so normally how we've seen this happen, Marshall, right, is someone casts a Thassa, then Thassa's trigger goes on the stack, and they cast the Tainted Pact. Austin has, as best I know, casted Thassa and then held priority and cast Tainted Pact, right?
That is what he's done. This will work out for him.
Well, like, does Matt have like a Pact negation in his deck or something?
Let's find out.
Well, I didn't draw it if he does. Okay.
Yeah. Either way, Austin was going to be able to get the job done. Even if the Oracle were to get bounced or something, there would still be 1 devotion and the game would end there. I am curious though, what was Sperling looking for?
Also, why did I say casted like that's a word? What happened there? I just blacked out. I don't know what happened there.
That happens, What are you gonna do?
Words are hard.
Words are very difficult. Yeah, I don't see anything in the main deck there for Sperling. Do you see anything that could have been relevant? I think he was just
maybe rabbit holing. Yeah, okay.
Anyway, Austin picks up the first game. He is one to the good. And, again, I'm focusing on Sperling here because Sperling's the one on 45 points and fighting for that world seat right now.
For sure.
Yeah, Austin is look, it's very important for him too. Don't get me wrong. He's going to come back on the last league weekend and really try to put together a run. But Sperling's there now. Sperling is the one who's knocking at the door and trying to secure the seat. And he needs things to go right. He has to win himself, and he also has to have Cifka lose. If they both win or they both lose, which is also kind of interesting, then they'll play a playoff.
Yes. So let's see. We see how Sperling's sideboard here on the screen. A Veto, a Gideon, a Dispute, a Narset, and it looks like a Typhoon in. A Teferi, has that a Day of Judgment, a Wrath of God, a Rest in Peace, and a Lightning Helix out. Okay, well, it looks like the cards that he's bringing in are all pretty solid. You could say the same about Austin. And there's your old buddy coming on in there, Patrick Ratterson.
Dude, I saw him in the sideboard, gave him a little high five. That card has been a game changer. It really does force, because the way I've seen it is like Sperling and company. They're just like I can't afford to keep in like a Wrath of God or something, Day of Judgment. He has access to those. He has to kind of maneuver it where maybe he could snipe it with a pair of removal spells, like some like 2-spot removal spells or something like that. Because otherwise, the pack rat just hits you from such a different angle that you're just not going to be able to keep up with keeping your opponent off of the combo and also having them not pack rat you.
Yep.
Pack rat just hits different, Ed.
It does. Love this card. I mean, love that card. Love this matchup. Love both of these decks. Now they're both taking a look at their opening hand. Not a bad place to be, it feels like, for either one of them. Looks like Sperling's going to have to send one back.
Yeah, he's on 6 here.
Tough decision here if he wants to go to that Plains, Triome, or Sacred Foundry. Obviously, he's decided on a land, just deciding which one he wants to put back here. Well,
kind of mapping out the first few turns, but it could be a little awkward if he has to go tap land, pain land.
And look, when you're playing, you're down a game to a great player like Austin, with a world's invite and more on the line. Yeah, you might take a couple extra seconds on
dang right
figuring out what card to put where and everything else. Just
absolutely
might be worth your time.
Interesting here. He the top deck there from Sperling was Gideon of the Trials, which is actually a big problem for Austin, and a card that if Sperling wants, he could just cast next turn. Oh, cancel that order. There's a duress on the stack. And that's going to earn a nice from Sperling here as, well, if he does end up taking the Gideon. Of course, this is going to depend on how things match up with what Austin has in his hand. But Gideon right off the top of the library, perhaps a turn too soon.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because that Dovin's Veto is kind of attractive to take with that duress. But looks like, he took the Gideon. Here comes Miscast. All right. Well, take care of that.
And Sperling actually just gives him a good game.
GG.
He's just like, now I can't come back. That's not true, right? But it hurts. Although, that being said, Cedric, with the information that we have, I mean, Austin doesn't have anything going on in his hand. He's got land, Spell Pierce, and a Mind Stone.
Yeah, Austin doesn't have anything going on, but really Matt doesn't either, right? So both players, and I would say that.
Hey, there's a target, by the way, for Prismari Command.
Yeah, so like where this favors Austin is he's just got more mana to work with. So when it is a time to have that kind of battle, which Brainstorm certainly does help, here, of course, for Sperling by finding some lands and some cards to put back on top of his deck, of course. No fetch land to go along with it, as best I can tell. But Sperling was missing lands, and now he's actually found some. So less of a problem in that department.
Yeah, and I think he's fine with this. Sometimes they say you get Brainstorm locked when you have cards that you don't want. I think he just wants these cards, right? Yeah. And so, here he can play his land, and he can Prismari Command to take out the Mind Stone. He can wait till end step. He can leave up Dovin's Veto. He's got a few options here. And next turn we could see Teferi. It's getting kind of interesting.
It is. It very much is.
A little bit awkward here. The Mind Stone untapped, ready to go. Austin, he can just force Austin to cash it in if he'd like. And then he could make a treasure or do 2 damage, or he could draw 2, discard 2. So he's going to make a treasure, and he's going to blow up the Mind Stone. Again, this is likely to just cause Austin to say, okay, fine, I'll just get my card, thank you. But since the Prismari command has two different targets, it will not fizzle it. He'll get whichever parts are still relevant. In this case, he's going to get a treasure. This isn't quite enough mana for him to be able to play Teferi and leave up Dovin's Veto. He has no idea what's going on in hand here. And unfortunately for him, it's also not enough mana to pay for Spell Pierce, which we're going to see from Bursavich here.
Yep. Go ahead and get that thing out of here. Yeah, it's
super
it's
rough.
frustrating.
Yeah, you saw that head shake, didn't you?
Yep.
It's just like miscast, all the 1 mana counters, just he keeps having it, and Sperling just keeps spamming good game at him. He just knows that he's kind of got a few too many times here to really come back. He's also saying, hey, if you have the combo, you win, although he doesn't. In fact, he doesn't have any of the combo.
Now, Austin is he's thinking of taking this moment to play Selendi Vision, which, smart, Matt's tapped out. So take the opportunity to resolve this card. Hopefully we can get a look at what the options are. That would be awesome if we could. But Matt has Dovin's Veto and nothing else. That's it.
Yeah, he's choosing. He had Negate. There was also Thought Erasure in there as well, and he decided, I'm just going to have a Negate.
Now I'm curious about how lucky does Matt think. Well, man, the Negate's actually awesome because it costs 1 as opposed to 2. It just registered with me because of Baral. So yeah, I was gonna say maybe Matt's gonna try to get lucky and like brainstorm and spike it to Fairy, but that would actually end up going extremely poorly.
Totally. Brainstorm gives some hope here for Sperling, who really did need to see some cards. And in fact, it's good enough to fight over here. Negate's going to hit at Dovin's Veto. Sperling says, I need to get something going now. And this actually works.
It's not bad.
Yeah. He can cast Narset this turn and then grab that Memory Lapse and get rid of the island if he'd like.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, of course, knows that Austin doesn't have the combo because he would have just killed him if he did. Oh, kind of interesting. The Memory Lapse is an important piece of disruption for Matt, but it's got to be tempting to take the Expressive Iteration because that's the type of card that can get you 2 cards, from 1.
Interesting spot here now for Austin because he drew a copy of Eliminate. Eliminate can take care of Narset all by itself. But are you interested? Let me check the mana here. Yeah, so he could just yank Luris and put it right onto the battlefield if he wants to. I mean, puts the shields entirely down. Don't know how much he cares about that. But, that could just be the play. Play the Swamp, play the Luris. Yeah, just pass the turn back. So there you go.
That's exactly what he's doing, Cedric. Ooh, another Memory Lapse off the top. But Sperling needs to find something to get moving with. There's Shark Typhoon. That's interesting. Also, another Narset could fuel the fire to keep it moving. What can he do a shark for here? No land drop, so a 3/3 shark is what he can make?
Yeah, that's all it looks like, and that Eliminate covers that shark.
That's right. He doesn't have enough enough mana to hardcast the Typhoon. I'm assuming that's not really part of the equation against the combo deck. I mean, it certainly generates a big advantage over the turns, but it's a very slow way to go about it. So I'm assuming we're just going to see a 3/3 shark here.
This is a cute little interaction here. Mind Stone alongside Luris, which is nice. I mean, it's not the cheapest way to draw a card, but it'll work.
Kind of interesting here, Austin attacking. He knows about the Shark Typhoon.
Yeah.
So this is going to be, we know why he's doing it, but Sperling has to be like, why would you attack into my 3/3 shark? Right? Why are you doing that? We see the Eliminate, but Sperling's going to figure that out. He's going to say, there's no way you're just going to offer up this attack for no reason. Now, that doesn't mean that he doesn't make this play, but it does mean he's going to know something's up.
Yep, and he's not going to cycle for 1 and have a Memory Lapse available or something because that doesn't do anything. So
right,
cycle for the full amount before the card draw happens. Take care of that, which is what Austin's going to do. Mystery card coming just to solve for falls. So, I mean, I was going to say I just feel like Teferi is like the best draw.
Yep, it does feel like that.
And it's not there. And right now, I guess you can get your own companion, get that party started, I suppose.
He's going to trade a little bit of life total to keep up Memory Lapse here. What a strange draw from Austin. He just has nothing. I mean, he's just been beating down with Baral and Luris. Like, that is not the combo that we were talking about when we entered the match here. But it's so far, has been able to make a pretty big dent. It's going to get in for another 4 here, knock Sperling down to 12.
Sometimes you just play good Dimir cards and they work out.
This actually reminds me of a comparison that you made earlier in the day when we talked about the combo deck having a similar feel to like Splinter Twin, where you have to live in fear of them going off. But I've covered a lot of Splinter Twin. I know you have too. A lot of the time, the person that's playing Twin just won because they ended up playing like a 2-1 and a 1-4 and just attacking with them a bunch of times, right? And then they're like bolt, bolt, snap, bolt. And you're like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not going to get comboed off, but I just lost to your other cards. We actually do see that a fair bit here too. Random things like Luris or Pack Rat or whatever can generate a pretty significant advantage.
Yeah, I think what's kind of interesting too is that you're trying to cover all the bases, right? You're first and foremost, you're thinking about the combo, just like you would be if you're playing a Splinter Twin. You're thinking about, I don't want to lose the combo. But what that does is it gives the Splinter Twin player so much decision making about, like, in the Splinter Twin days, I have less of the combo. I'm doing something else, right? But I still have some of it, so you have to continue to respect it. With the Pact deck that we're watching here, they're still going to leave in their combo, but it kind of plays similarly because the combo, it's only 4 cards.
That's right.
Right? So they've got other stuff going on. So if you draw a Splinter Twin comparison where it's like 4 Deceiver Exarchs, 3 Pester Mites, 4 copies of Splinter Twin, some number of Kiki Jikis, that occupies a lot of slots. But in the sideboard of games, they might go down to like 2 Exarchs, 1 Pester Mite, 2 Twins, still have some of it in there. And that's what this deck is effectively already done, which is I've got 2 packs, I've got 2 Thassa's Oracles, and then the rest of this mishmash. Sure, here's a Pack Rat, here's a thing, here's a weird, unique stuff, Luris is a companion, so on and so forth. So It is Splinter Twin-esque in a roundabout way.
It's crazy. It's like late season Splinter Twin, right? It's like people respect it, but you can really shave some of the combo pieces. It's like that, which is, really the best version of those type of combo decks, the ones that can sort of lord it over you, that I might kill you. Don't tap out. You might just be dead. And then do other things in the meantime. Meanwhile, this board hasn't really progressed much outside of Austin looping this Mind Stone. It was a nice sequence for him. He actually sacked the Mind Stone, then went to bring it back with Luris. It got memory lapse, but then he also had the Omen of the Sea to just grab it and then cast it. And so he has basically had nothing to slow him down from just drawing a bunch of cards every turn now.
Yeah, and now we're getting to the stage of things now, Marshall, where it's like I don't really know what Matt's best draw is. And that's a really, really uncomfortable feeling if you're a control player or any player, right? Because now I just think to myself, if Matt could stack his deck, like, what's the best draw? Like,
Right.
what's the runner best draw? Because like the first spell gets countered, but like maybe the next spell resolves. And I don't actually really have a good feel for what that looks like at this exact moment. And obviously, back-to-back lands is not what Matt is looking for. You saw some frustration from him, and understandably so, given everything that's on the line and how this match has gone thus far. This is what he wanted to get paired against. This is why he brought this deck to the table. And unfortunately for him, it's not shaken out the way that he had been hoping.
No, it's not. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm thinking along the lines of something like Teferi to get things rolling. Maybe a card like Brainstorm to see a few and get you going. But this machine is running really nicely here for Austin. He is just able to continually draw cards, and the unlikely hero of the game for him has been Luris. Luris is absolutely dominating this board right now by being able to recur these little artifacts and Omen of the Seas and stuff that get you cards.
Yeah, and so you're able to. Yeah, he's just getting the engine online, like you mentioned. This is Omen coming back. We've seen Mind Stone come back. If Brawl dies, that can come back. One on top, one on the bottom here with the scrying of the Omen. Found a copy of Brainstorm. So, we went to a game where both players had very few resources. Now Austin has what feels like unlimited resources, and Matt needs perfect top decks. And again, I don't even know what those look like.
Okay, there's a Shark Typhoon. That has to be somewhere on his list. He can turn that into a 7/7. He's also continued to attack with Kahira because there's actually not a great block here for Austin. Now, the downside is that he just got Austin back down to 20. So he's got some work to do there.
Well, there's piece one. Found a copy of Tainted Pact. Can't forget, too, that Austin has a discard spell to clear the way if he was scared of a counterspell, and that copy of Thoughtseize also has a counterspell of his own and saw it coming. So if he's able to find Thassa's Oracle at any point, this one's a wrap. Well, I guess he just did, technically.
Yeah. Grim Tutor doing its best demonic tutor impression here with the discount from Baral.
Yeah, you just got to count the mana sources here, which is exactly what I think Austin's doing. Is how many do I have enough swamps to be able to do this? Because Thoughtseize, if he wants to, like, technically he doesn't even have to lead with Thoughtseize. He could do it via Saw It Coming if he has enough blue mana, which is basically Grim Tutor for Thassa's Oracle, then play Thassa's Oracle, then Pact plus Saw It Coming to protect yourself, because Matt only has one card in his hand. So if he wanted to do it that way, he could. But to Austin's credit, given how far ahead he is in this game, he doesn't have to do it that way at all.
That's right. He has full flexibility here. Austin Bursavich is going to pick up the win here over Matt Sperling, who just has not been able to put anything together. He's been saying good game since the beginning. Sort of a predictor, perhaps, from Matt's perspective of getting comboed out. That hasn't actually happened until now, but now it will.
Yep, because
land in hand for Matt, and Austin knows it, so the way is 100% clear for him. There's Tainted Pact. All he needs to do is correctly sequence these, and it's going to be good game to Austin Bursavich for real this time. Sperling, with a loss, is going to have to cross his fingers that Stanislav Cifka has also lost. That is his only hope now, because if Cifka wins his match, he's going to be through and leave Sperling behind. But if Cifka loses, they're going to play against each other in a playoff. Like, that's massive match right there.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it ironic? We're getting all these play-in type things now. You and I, big basketball fans, play-in tournament this week coming up. And now we've got a play-in for Worlds, apparently. Maybe happen.
Could be happening. In the meantime, Bursavich is going through with the Tainted Pact. He's got the trigger, or I shouldn't say the trigger, but the Thassa's Oracle on the stack, and Sperling can do except for look on.
You know, this
also Lawler Skates, you predicted correctly, and Maria.
Oh, I broke Maria.
It's over. It's over.
Woo,
I'm so mad right now.
Yeah, that's all right.
She couldn't go end to end. Oh man, the very last one. All right, Austin Bursavich with the victory for Matt Sperling. A hard-fought battle, and Cedric, you were right, man. That deck just was too good.
You know, these are just my own personal thoughts after playing this game for far too long.
Please.
I've made the mistake. Like, I'm not going to call like Matt's far from that, okay? And Matt is significantly better right now. I just, at this point in my career, I just look at a deck like that and I just go, I'm going to lean broken. Instead of trying to beat broken, I just want to lean broken. And it's Matt probably hasn't beaten the Pact decks along the way. And Luis said he was farming them, and I believe those people. But like, again, if I'm just going to pick who do I think's going to win, I just lean broken. And at the end of the day, look, we don't see in Magic 2 mana, 2 card combos. Technically, both cards cost 2, so 4 mana. But 4 mana, 2 card combos, we don't really in 2021 Magic. You know, 1995 Magic, sure. But 2021 Magic, no. And that Jeskai Control deck, I think, is fine. But you saw some of the weakness there. And you saw Austin's deck, it can play so many different roles. And that just, there's a warm, fuzzy feeling I think you have sometimes, Marshall, when you play. Well, I know my deck's broken. I know that for sure. Now, if everything comes together right, great. Like, you know, I think of last year, 2 years ago, Hogak Summer. It's like, look, I don't know if people are going to have Graveyard and all this other stuff, but I know my deck's broken. And I know it's forever either, because at some point, our friends at Wizards of the Coast are going to go, no mas.
Yeah,
so and that happens on that side of it for as long as I can.
That's right. That is a good way to approach these things. And, you know, this is going to get really interesting, Cedric. So we're going to take a break. But to set the stage for when we come back, Stanislav Cifka, he needs to win his match to clear Sperling and just be the only one left to take that world slot. Who's he playing against? Luis Scott-Vargas, one of the toughest players in the field. And also interesting, Matt Sperling's testing teammate for this, are playing the same deck, and it's going to be a very similar matchup, as you can see, Grixis to Jeskai Control. We're going to have that right after this.
Don't be afraid.
And welcome back. So we've got high drama here coming in. Matt Sperling and Stanislav Cifka were the ones in the Rivals League who were at the top of the list and looking for a way to nab that one world slot that's going to be given away here. Unfortunately for Sperling, he was not able to win his match against Austin Bursavich that we just watched, which means he is at the mercy of Cifka. If Cifka can win this match, which we're about to watch, by the way, then he will claim that seat away from Sperling. But if he can't, then they're going to play against each other for a playoff today. Like, this is going to happen, and they're going to see which one of them would get the world seat. Now, the interesting part about this as well, another wrinkle, is that Cifka happens to be playing against Luis Scott-Vargas, and Luis is playing the same deck as Sperling, so the deck that they thought, hey, this has a good matchup against, in this case, Grixis Pact, but it's Luis, right? I mean, he's one of the best ever, and Cifka's going to have to try to navigate that to beat him. And I'll tell you what, you root for your teammates, right? The people you test with, you're like, hey, I hope you do well. Good luck. I'll see you at the end of the day. Sperling's going to be glued to the screen to figure out if Luis is going to win. Let's take a quick look at the deck list before we get into the match. Cifka, again, he's playing a little bit different. He's got Grixis Pact here, but as you can see, it's really Dimir, right? There's like a tiny little bit for the Underworld Breach, but this is very much a Dimir-focused deck.
It is the smallest of red splashes, and so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do the same thing I did when we looked at Austin's deck list going up against Luis's, going up against Sperling's, but Luis and Sperling are playing the same deck, which I'm just going to look for the cards that are really good against a control deck. So I'm looking for, let's go to top row. Censor doesn't matter much. You got a Duress, okay. Draw on the Lock, all right. Inquisition, yes. Maze Mind's Tome, Memory Lapse, Negate. Pact Negation, Spell Pierce, Supreme Will, obviously 2 pieces of each combo, Thoughtseize, Thought Erasure, Underworld Breach. I haven't really seen it in action all that much, but I imagine that one's going to be pretty good. And then you do the cards that aren't that great, and that's mostly removal. So Eliminate actually has more text in this matchup than normal, but I'm still going to count Eliminate. Fatal Push, more text because of Shark Token, so I'm still going to count that. You've got Languish as a removal spell that's not particularly good. And then Yeheni's Expertise. So not a lot of dead ones here for Cifka in the matchup, which I think is pretty important. And so game 1, of course, I think is going to be very important here for Cifka to win if he wants to qualify for Worlds, because for games 2 and games 3, he'll be able to get those bad removal spells out and some goodies in. So focusing on game 1 here, I think it should be pretty important for the both of us.
That's right. Now let's take a look over at what Luis has brought to the table here. Now Luis is in a decent position here too. He was hoping to run it up today, win out, and maybe take this seat. That didn't happen for him. He had a rough start to the tournament, but then really rallied and has only lost once since his 0-3 start. But that means that he isn't in position to nab that seat here. But this very much counts for him. There's still another league weekend to come, and he needs to put himself in the best position possible, because as people above him claim those seats, he gets one step closer to putting himself in range. And with a win here, he will very much be in range of that world seat, or making it into the gauntlets and stuff after the last one. They've picked Jeskai Control, and he said he's been farming it all weekend. He hasn't lost to it yet, to the Pact deck.
Well, Matt Sperling hopes that holds true right now.
That's right. That's exactly the scenario.
Luis does too, obviously. He wants to win for himself, but it doesn't hurt that he could win for his teammate and his friend as well. So if you're Sperling, you're hoping that Sterling record against Pact decks holds true. And if you're Luis, you're hoping it holds true so that you're one step closer to qualifying for Worlds. So a lot on the line here and a lot on Luis's shoulders.
Seriously, Luis, a highly motivated Luis is a very scary thing, and he is. He has 43 points to Stanislav's 45. Again, he can't overtake him in one match. It's only 1 point to the winner, but he's right there. I mean, Luis is knocking at the door for this spot. He just ran out of runway this weekend, but he has another weekend to fight, and he wants this point very badly. And, he's friends with Matt Sperling, and they tested for this together. He's going to want to win this real bad. So let's see if it's going to be Luis forcing a playoff, or if Stan can beat Luis and claim that world seat on his own. We are underway here. It looks like Cifka's won the roll. He's got Temple of Deceit to kick things off.
Luis has a veto. Typhoon, Lapse, Lands. Not a bad hand.
Looks pretty good, actually. Yeah. It just needs one thing to be a little more proactive than just a little shark, and he'll be good to go. Rips Raugen Triumph. He's just going to throw that onto the battlefield, tap, pass, turn back. Land number 2 here for Cifka.
Cifka halfway home as far as the combo is concerned. Has Tainted Pact. Still just looking for the Oracle.
Yeah, Augur of Bolas will not help him find the Oracle. It's okay at helping find Pact, but in the meantime, he's just going to develop his mana here by playing a Mind Stone. This does technically give you the turn 3 win if you have all the pieces. Ooh! That is an Oracle. He now has both pieces of the combo in his hand. I spoke right at the right time there. But as it stands, you see Memory Lapse and Dovin's Veto in hand here for Scott-Vargas. So the shields are up, and Stan knows it. So he's actually just going to use his mana to put Lurrus into hand. And again, he's flexing the really strong muscle here. It's not just the ability to win on the spot, but it's also the ability to keep your opponent from actually, being able to do things. Although now that I say that, Narset, Parter of Veils on the battlefield. Are we 1 blue mana away from victory here?
Yeah, blue source's game.
This is where Luis, he looks calm, but he's got to be holding his breath. He knows he can't just sit, right? He knows he can't just be like, yeah, just keep going. I'm not going to be doing anything over here. He needs to take a stand at some point, and he recognizes I could lose the game this turn, but I'm not going to try to lose to your good draws and your bad ones. So he's just going to play the Narset and pass, and it looks like he's dodging the bullet here. I don't see a blue source in sight here for Cifka.
Yeah, doesn't have it, fortunately for Luis. So, one of the things, if you've ever played against Splinter Twin decks in Modern when they were legal, was there was plenty of times where you just go, I hope you don't have it, right? You just play your game and just tap out and stuff, because if you play scared the whole time, you're not developing or getting anywhere. So at some point you just have to go, I hope you do not have the things that you need in order to win the game. So Luis just tapping out for Narset on turn 3, and it's just like, I don't know, if you've got A plus B, plus, another blue source, good for you. Obviously, Cifka didn't have it, so that's good for Luis and Matt Sperling, of course. So we play on.
All right, well, that Wishclaw Talisman's on the battlefield, and that's a scary thing. Dovin's Veto got taken away by Thoughtseize, but you see Augur of Bolas hit the battlefield. There is still a Narset at the ready here as well, so Luis is going to do that first. He sees Pair of Helices. Ooh, and another replacement Dovin's Veto, although that will be known to Cifka.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of action here in hand for Scott-Vargas. He has many, many options. He could play a land and pass with both Lapse and Dovin's Veto. He would also have access to Prismari Command or even a cycled Shark Typhoon if he really wants. He also could get a little more proactive and just leave up one of those counters if he'd like. He's deep in the tank here.
Deep in the tank, indeed.
This is a tough spot. You know, I got to say the Wishclaw Talisman really makes turns much, much more difficult. There's obvious things you can get, right? It's like, oh, you can go get an island or whatever. But there's also things that are like, oh, you could do that, right? That, you know, you get from playing reps of the deck. Well, this is a new deck, right? I mean, these cards haven't been around very long. This is the first time we've got to see this pack deck at this level of play. And Cifka is certainly a clever player as well. So Luis says, okay, fine. Narset's gone. Augur Bolus takes care of that problem.
Augur Bolus working overtime here. First of all, I've never seen it get a card before. So
it actually hit. Yeah, that's the first step.
Yeah. So kudos to the Augur there. And then it also killed a Planeswalker. It's just the best 1/3 of all time, really.
It really is. And here comes Luris of the Dream Den. Stanislav taking what I would call the middle route, right? He's saying, look, I'm gonna kind of probe here. I'm gonna play my Luris. I'm gonna just kind of keep positioning myself to get value on you without really going off. Again, he has access to mana now, blue mana ×2. So he technically could just be like, I'm going to go for it. But he knows most of Luis's hand, and he knows it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But Luis says, I have to do something. I'm going to memory lapse this Luris. You know, you can't let Stan do whatever he wants and just only focus on the combo. He will beat you.
Yes.
Land off the top for Scott-Vargas. He's going to play an untapped land, which will give him access to Prismari Command and Dovin's Veto. We see Cling to Dust to take out a Dovin's Veto in the yard, but get a card into hand. Cifka knew what it was. It was Luris that got put back on top. Now we see Mind Stone cracked as well. This is all in Luis's end step. Is Luis going to use Prismari Command? He can take out the Talisman.
So this is interesting too, because Cifka has found the second copy of Thassa's Oracle, which means in a weird roundabout way you could cast the first one as like a bait spell-ish, but not really. You know, like, I think in a matchup like this, I think the only thing you care about fighting over on Luis's side is actually the card Tainted Pact. When that stuff like is kind of going, you don't actually care about Thassa's Oracle.
That's right. Especially when Luis has found his copies of Dovin's Veto.
That's a pretty good turn.
That's a nice 2-for-1 there for Luis.
Yeah.
He takes out Luris as well as uses an opportunity for Stan to be completely tapped out to take out the Wishclaw Talisman. So again, you know, this is Luis fighting back against that grind that Cifka had sort of started to put forward. Now he's going to go with Expressive Iteration. And both players are generating value, right? They're slowly stocking their hands and setting things up. Now, Cifka's still the threatening player here. There's nothing that Luis can do that just ends the game, but there is on Cifka's side.
Yeah, the 1-2 punch and just trying to figure out if there's a way to get it through. So this might be granted being cast and just saying, okay, I'm going to try to find another way to get the combo through. Maybe there's a discard spell hiding out in the sideboard or something like that I can grant it for. So here we go. Let's see if this one's allowed to resolve, because this is worth answering. You know, it's an expensive tutor, but it's a tutor nonetheless.
That's right. And you see Luis immediately look to the side. He's checking out the deck list there from Cifka and saying, is there a card that makes it so that I can't protect myself and that I actually need to go for veto here? Or is this okay? Is this incremental? Is this a way that you can, you know, grind a little bit further ahead, but can't actually outright win the game off of? And it looks like Cifka's going to go for redundancy. He's going to go get his other copy of Tainted Pact. So now his hand is comprised of Fatal Push and then 2 copies each of his combo cards.
And now might be a good time to fire off that Fatal Push too. Get this Shark token out of here. I know it's only a 2/2, but maybe we see Fatal Push get used. Now you're seeing Luis pick up just a land, a couple of copies of Narset. Narset does a nice job of tying the room together.
It absolutely does.
It's an interesting little test spell.
Mm-hmm. Cifka's actually flirting with the idea of putting that Tainted Pact on the stack. He decides not to. Oof. Two very different cards were the choices there. Day of Judgment or Brainstorm.
Mm-hmm.
Luis takes the Brainstorm. He's also going to leave back the Shark to defend against Narset, but it's probably going to get hit. Ooh, there's a Tainted Pact now, though.
All right, so 2 mana Demonic Tutor. I get to search for whatever I want. Actually,
this is interesting.
Okay. I think I know what's going to happen here.
Okay.
Doesn't he just put himself, assuming no Prismari command, don't you just put yourself to a very low library and then you just say, cast Thassa's Oracle? Your counter magic, like this, by doing this, you put your deck to, I think you want to put it to 3 cards. So then you draw to 2 cards. Prismari command doesn't kill you with the draw 2, and then you just cast Thassa's Oracle. Well, he doesn't have 4 blue, so never mind.
Because I mean, he could just space that out though. That plan, he could be like Thassa's Oracle, and Luis says, "Okay, memory lapse it." And you go next turn, Thassa's Oracle.
Yep.
Right? Like you want to do Dovin's Veto my creature? That's not how that works.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now, you gotta worry about Prismari command like a little bit. Even though Luis doesn't have it, I think you have to play around it to the best of your ability. But I do think he's just going to make his deck extremely, extremely thin and extremely small, so that it's just kind of it's just going to be. I think it's just going to be consistently Thassa's Oracle. And actually, that's actually kind of an interesting point that was brought up in Twitch chat, which is with Narset being on the battlefield for Luis, the Prismari command to make you draw 2 doesn't work.
It makes you draw 1. Yeah,
makes you draw 1,
depending on when you do it.
Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of a little weird backwards interaction. I still think you should just be thinking about Prismari command in an effective way anyway. Spell Pierce is going to be the draw, and now.
Boy, I wish I knew how many cards were in library. I assume it is 2 or 3.
It can't be many.
No, I mean if you leave 5, like that doesn't really solve the problem.
And he also found his. Okay, so he found his Underworld Breach. Was that the card that he actually wanted to find as like a way to clear the path? Like you start with Breach and then you like let some discard spells rip or something? Like, really fascinating.
Hey, well, let's see what happens. This has been fascinating to watch unfold. Luis just has to sit there and kind of wait for it to happen. He let the Tainted Pact go, though. That's kind of the key interaction here. So Luis knows what's going on. Going to take a quick look at the graveyard and say, okay, you've got Underworld Breach.
Yeah. There's a Thoughtseize down there. That's the key card. Oh, well, no, I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. Because Thoughtseize should get vetoed, and then you have lapse to protect yourself around Thassa's Oracle.
Mm-hmm. At least for a turn. There's the Thoughtseize on the stack now, so that's a forced Dovin's Veto here for Scott-Vargas.
Yeah, and so now you just cast it.
Put it on the stack.
Yeah, you just say you got to have another counter spell, and it's got to be memory lapse, and it's like, okay, you lapsed it, I just get to do it again, so that's fine.
Right, you're not going to kill me by next turn anyway.
Yep.
And then Underworld Breach goes away, and he passes the turn back to Fairy Hero of Dominaria. -2 on Narset, sees a pair of Shark Typhoons. Is there any way out here for Luis? That Oracle is going to go into hand. And then it's going to go right on the stack here from Cifka. He needs to find another way to counter it. And even then, it's like, if it's another memory lapse, that still just doesn't really solve the problem.
Yeah, so it's just, if it's just consistently memory lapse, like you said, it doesn't really solve the problem.
Expressive Iteration. Brainstorm, commit.
All right.
Can he combo him here?
Oh, boy. Oh, wow.
Can he commit it and then untap in memory?
Well, Narset on the battlefield, right?
Yeah.
So he won't draw.
Right. So he won't get that, but he'll get his hand. There's Prismari Command. I mean, these are good for a card.
All right. Okay.
Ooh, this has been a game already.
Yeah.
2 cards in library right now for Cifka. He found Prismari Command. Luis just did. If he casts it on Cifka's turn, it is a card. I don't know if this works the way he wants because he can do it on Luis's turn and get a card. Does that work? It's the problem is Memory Lapse keeps putting the card back on top of the library.
Okay, so this is weird, right? Okay, so we got a couple notes. 2 cards in library, 1 card in graveyard. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you draw Thassa's Oracle. And remember, Cifka only has 2 blue mana, so like Spell Piercing back or something is not an option, and he doesn't have a discard spell to clear the path. So I think he's resigned to just continuously just going Thassa's Oracle, just keep casting it and hope that it's good. And in a weird roundabout way, Luis is sculpted like a hand to delay this for a while.
I mean, like Luis can force Cifka to draw an extra card, but he has to do it one at a time and on his turn.
Okay. Okay. All right, so push this token. Oh, no.
Oh, if he kills Narset, then that changes everything.
Oh, don't kill that. Oh, no.
Narset's protecting him.
Oh, no.
Now Cifka can draw cards and Prismari Command can just deck him.
Doesn't he just command him and kill him now?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, incredible. Target player draws 2 cards. He'll have 0 cards in his library. He'll have to draw for his draw step, and he will just lose.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
That Narset was the only thing keeping Cifka alive, and he killed it.
Oh my gosh. So he should have 0 cards left in his deck right now.
He does. Those were both of the cards, if you will.
Wow.
And he loses on his draw step.
Wow.
Luis Scott-Vargas finds a win. That was an extraordinarily complex line. Really tough game to navigate, I have to say, by both players. But in the end, it's Luis who finds the win after his Narset mercifully hit the bin.
Oh, my goodness.
It's crazy, too, because you might think, well, I can Prismari Command to kill my own Narset and then have you draw 2, but it's all part of the same thing, so it'll still be there when it resolves, right? So you can't even do that. You would need to find, like, Lightning Helix, kill my Narset, or something weird.
Wow.
Oh, God. That was a heck of a game. My only question is, did Matt Sperling hit his head on the ceiling when he jumped out of his chair when that Narset went away or not? Like, he might still be unconscious from that one because that's incredible. And that's 1 game to the good for Scott-Vargas. And again, the biggest Luis Scott-Vargas fan on the planet right now is Matt Sperling. He's rooting for him to beat Cifka because if he does, he will force a playoff between Cifka and Sperling for that world seat. And he just moved 1 very big step closer to that.
That was a game. That was a game right there. Whoo, baby. That ruled.
That was awesome.
That ruled. Okay. I thought Stan was definitely going to win that game. Jeez.
Same. It's also crazy that the lack of extra blue mana for him was just crippling. I mean, how did he go that deep into the game and still only have 2 blue?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if he would have had that earlier, the game would have been over a long time ago.
Well,
wow.
Look who we have here. Patrick Ratterson.
Is there an answer for it? There is. It's Lightning Helix. No, Luis, no. And he says, okay, look at that. Look at Luis. He knows that was a huge step. He needed to have that answer. Because remember, they don't keep many of those spells in post-board, right? Nope. He just has a random Lightning Helix and it finds the home. Now, that isn't the end of the story because Luris of the Dream Den can bring back Pack Rat and make it a problem going down the line. But it's a huge step for Luis because if he doesn't have that, right? Like, let's say he just has Prismari Command in his hand, which he does. He has to go land, go. Cifka makes a rat, and now he's behind and can't really catch up.
Yeah, we saw that unfold yesterday. So, as you said, it's not over for Pack Rat because it can come back via Luris, and there is Luris on the battlefield right now. Now there is a Prismari Command, so maybe Luris is about to die too. Okay. So
This is huge.
So in all of this, as well, I was actually no, I'm gonna correct myself right now because Gideon plus the emblem is on the battlefield. So I was gonna say in all of this, if a Tainted Pact just gets peeled, the game is over. But that's not true. Now Cifka does have an answer to this Gideon in a copy of Noxious Grass, so we are still playing some Magic here. And Thoughtseize is not a bad draw either.
Yeah, you see the Memory Lapse in hand plus a treasure, and the untapped land for Luis gives him a little bit of defense as well this turn. But you have to like Luis's side early. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't fall apart quickly, but, having that Helix was huge for the Pack Rat. And then he gets to follow it up with probably the single most annoying card in the format for Stan. This Gideon of the Trials is the two things that he doesn't want to see. It's Disruption plus a clock, and it's all in one card.
Yeah, super annoying. Super, super annoying. All right, so how do you lead out here? Do you lead out with Thoughtseize, or you just lead out with Noxious Grass, save the Thoughtseize? Do you want to try to play around something like a Dovin's Veto or Memory Lapse right now? See what's going on? If you lead out with Thoughtseize, maybe Luis is going to brainstorm in response. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot of options here for both players. It feels, this is historic, obviously, but it feels very Legacy-esque right now, Marshall.
It certainly does. Thoughtseize, brainstorm in response. I've been here before. There's even a fetch in hand here for Luis, so it's all coming up Legacy.
And now this is interesting too, because Cifka might be thinking, you know what? I'm going to drown in the lock your brainstorm. Forget your manipulation. You don't get to do that. I want to see what the heck is going on in your hand.
I like it. That's very aggressive by Cifka. And he does have half of the combo in hand with the other half, sort of, right? He can solve the equation for the Tainted Pact, and he already has the Oracle. So he's just trying to set the stage to be able to go off. Now, Memory Lapse will help. But he has put Luis in a situation where he needs to draw some action, and he did. He actually drew a Shark Typhoon, which will do well for him.
Well, interestingly enough, you mentioned that Shark Typhoon to solve the equation. Looks like it's going to resolve. You mentioned the Shark Typhoon. It's a very, very, very timely draw here for Luis because Cifka's life total is relatively low at 11. Make this a 3/3 Shark. We go to 8 to 5 to 2 to 0. So there's some work to be done on that life total, but Shark Typhoon may be Luis's best draw in a situation like this. Because we can't forget that it's going to be pressuring Cifka with Memory Lapse as cover and cycling.
That's right.
So new card coming.
Hey, there's a nice looking hand though for Cifka. He's got exactly the 2-card combo that he can use to win the game. He's going to be under pressure, and there's going to be a Memory Lapse though. So we very much have a game. It's almost like a race at this point. Whether Stan can find a way to kill the Shark, then he can take all the pressure off. Or if he can find some hand disruption, he can clear the way.
Now, what's going to be interesting to me about this Tainted Pact is how Cifka is going to use it, because Cifka has the opportunity to basically go, I'm going to Tainted Pact and put my deck down to 2 cards or, just some very small number. And then it's going to look a lot like last game, which is just cast Thassa's Oracle, right?
Right.
And then you go, all right, I'll lapse it. Cool, it's the last card in my deck. Cast Thassa's Oracle.
That's right. No,
so
I'm
curious how he
that
wants to
almost
play.
Worked before. It was a very unusual set of circumstances that made it not. And it's really a great way to approach this matchup because of the dependency on Memory Lapse, right? Like, this just says, I'm going to keep putting a lethal spell on the stack, and you need to find a hard counter for it, and you don't have one.
So I guess my question now is, how low do we go for Cifka? I think the options here, Marshall, I think you go down to 2 cards, right? You go down to 2 cards because then you draw a card for your turn, leaves you with 1 card. You cast Thassa's Oracle. You check the devotion. It's 2. You're clear for takeoff. If you go down to 1 card in your deck, then you draw your card for the turn. That puts you at 0 cards. Cast the Oracle. It looks like he wanted Underworld Breach, so maybe that's just what he wanted in general with this card.
Okay, because he figures he can have a good value turn here, where he gets access to both Thoughtseize, but also the Tainted Pact again.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's part of the equation. I'm not sure. Brainstorm on the stack now. In fact, resolving for Luis. He has a Dovin's Veto now. Yeah. We've been talking about Tainted Pact a lot, but yeah, Brainstorm's kind of a real Magic card too, as it turns out. All right, Kahira goes into hand, leaving either Lapse or Veto available here for Luis. Is that a Spell Pierce off the top for Cifka?
Yeah, but we don't have a good feel for how many cards Cifka has left in his deck. So hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we don't have a great feel for it. So you cast this, he lapses, you fight back with Pierce. Maybe.
Does he have enough mana to do the things he needs to do here? Not to win. He can set it up.
Mm-hmm.
He can Pact plus Thoughtseize, it looks like.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting to me is, okay, so there's 24 cards left in the deck. So the thing that was interesting to me was the addition of Kahira to the hand maybe a little greedy? I don't really know the answer to that. Either way, we're pacting again.
And this one, he realistically has to go down to the game plan that we were describing before.
Mm-hmm. So this means to me, like if we're gonna go super low, 1 card, 0 card, however low we're gonna go, we're gonna lose the Underworld Breach now. And I guess she's probably, so I think we go Breach down, like we go to Pact down to very few cards, Thoughtseize you, go down to 6, and then, I mean, this won't be the best Lightning Helix top deck in Magic history. That belongs to Craig Jones, but we could have another one.
I like the way you think. I mean, this game started off with a Lightning Helix for Luis. Why couldn't it end with one?
Right? Okay, so we got Supreme Will. So now we fire off this Thoughtseize, right? We say, okay, I'm going to remove a couple cards from my graveyard, cast this, go down to... I mean, does he want to cast it? Okay, so he's going to go down to 6. So we could quite literally peel Helix right now.
Helix and Prismari Command should be good too, right? With the number of cards left. Oh, it's Brainstorm that he put back.
How about a little redraw?
Well, he found another Dovin's Veto. That's not enough though, is it?
I don't think so.
He can play the Kahira, get in for 3, knock Cifka down to 3 with a Dovin's Veto backup. Normally you'd feel pretty good about that. But as you see, Thassa's Oracle goes on the stack, and as long as that library is 2, 1, or 0, Cifka's going to pick up game number 2, and he does with a beautiful setup. Really well played there by Cifka to maneuver till the very last moment, clear the way, and set up the win. He picks up game number 2.
Man. These gents are playing some Magic here.
Incredible. That means that the players get to consult their sideboards one more time for any last tweaks, and then Luis and Stanislav are going to face off for a game 3 nail biter. We're going to just take a short break. When we come back, we'll have game number 3. We'll be back right after this. And welcome back. Luis Scott-Vargas versus Stanislav Cifka. They are just about ready to play this game 3, which has massive implications really for these two players, but also Matt Sperling, who's waiting on the sidelines watching this match unfold, as Cifka has the most to win here. If he can win this last game and put together a victory like he did in the prior, then he can put himself in Worlds and just call it a day. Luis would stay at 43 points. Sperling would stay one ahead of him, and we would continue to the last league weekend with those players near the top or at the top of the rankings and ready to fight it out to see who can win then. But if the opposite happens, if Luis were to win, he would jump up to 44 points. That would be his weekend. He would go into the last league weekend looking in good shape with a strong finish there. But more importantly, for this weekend, Cifka would then be forced to play against Sperling in a tiebreaker match to decide who gets to go to Worlds. So let's see what happens here between these two great players. Super intricate decks, detailed lines. This one's definitely tricky to follow along from home, but we're going to do our best to keep you apprised of everything going on and see who can pick up a win between these two players.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Man, I mean, remember, like, Cifka had turn 2 Pack Rat that game. It could have just been over, right?
Yep.
Like, Luis had the Helix, and he needed it. Different situation here, though, because now Cifka's on the draw, so even a turn 2 Pack Rat can be answered by a Prismari command as well as Lightning Helix, so it's not quite the same. Yeah. Also, he doesn't have it.
And Luis does have the Helix at the ready, so Luis has got Pack Rat covered, at least for right now.
Ooh, memory lapse on expressive iteration here. Cifka says, no. I'm going to try to blank you perhaps from drawing a card, or from hitting a land drop, something along those lines. Now, Luis is going to play an untapped Hollowed Fountain, which, of course, could be a bluff, but will also be an indicator to Cifka that it's possible he has Mystical Dispute, which he does.
All right, maybe we take a look with Duress, see what's going on. Looks like no.
Boy, a string of expressive iteration, though. The one from last turn, he redrew it here, and he's even got a backup in his hand. These are going to get Luis pretty far ahead on cards.
Yep. Super, super good card. Oh, looks like we want Castle Ardenvale. Okay, so that's something that can slowly but surely at some point in this game start to make a little bit of a clock.
God, Cifka's mana has been terrible this match. Also, look at this. He has 4 lands on the battlefield, and he doesn't have any black. What is going on?
That is strange. I mean, you do pay cost by being Grixis Marshal, even though the red splash into this Dimir deck is extremely small for Thunderworld Breach and essentially Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger. Like, it's not a huge splash, but you do need to play the requisite lands in order to facilitate the splash, and you're kind of seeing that coming back to hurt him a little bit, perhaps.
Man, you would figure that Cifka should not have mana problems on such a heavily 2-colored deck, and the first game really was punctuated by the fact that he couldn't find a third blue source for quite a while to protect his combo, and this one has been no black mana, and even an Augur of Bolas couldn't find it anyway. Luis is going to fire off this memory lapse. This is an aggressive way to keep Stanislav from getting black mana, not because of the Bolas, just because it means you're not drawing one next turn.
Yeah, Luis is running away with this one right now. You mentioned that lapse, putting the Augur of Bolas back, and meaning that, you get to draw that and have access to no black mana, but now Luis has the opportunity to resolve to Fairy. And think of the first match that we watched yesterday, Marshall, between Luis and a Dimir Pact player, whose name is escaping me right now, unfortunately, but regardless, Luis was able to get to Fairy rockin' and rollin', get to that ultimate, and then clear things up that way. And if he can do that again, Luis will go up to 44 points, get one step closer to Worlds, and more importantly, for Matt Sperling, push ourselves into a tiebreaker here.
This is a disaster for Cifka. I mean, he used the prior turn to put Luris into hand. He can't cast it forever. He's going to discard it to hand size here, while Teferi runs rampant on this board state all the way up to 6 loyalty here. Look at Cifka. He knows this one's fallen apart. It almost feels impossible from this point for him to come back. He does have a Tainted Pact in his hand, but he doesn't have the other combo piece either.
Yeah, I mean, he's missing black mana, doesn't have Thassa's Oracle, just drew another black card, I think, and all he can do is begrudgingly pass the turn back, while LSV, the young buck that he is having himself a Planeswalker party on his side of the battlefield.
He is. The party's definitely on Luis's side. Again, he needed a win here to keep his dreams alive for the last league weekend, but he's also fighting on behalf of his teammate, Matt Sperling, who's going to be oh, let's just say the biggest Luis fan at this moment, because things are looking very good for a playoff between Cifka and Sperling to see who gets to go to Worlds. Thanks to Luis, who's cruising to the victory here. He's got 7 loyalty on this on his Planeswalker there on Teferi. And what that means is once it goes up to 8, the next turn he can ultimate it, and all he has to do is draw a couple cards and the game's over, because he's just going to take out the lands and Cifka won't have a chance.
Yeah.
Wow, what a horrible turn here for Cifka. He played so awesome too. That second game was such a nail biter, going right down to the wire, and to have it just end like this is so brutal.
I mean, the tough thing now too, if you're Cifka, is you're always now, at least it happens with me. I don't know if it happens with you or anybody else in the Twitch chat. And now you're just thinking, what did I do wrong? What could I have done different in that first game? I killed that Narset, which seemed so innocent. And it's like, did killing that Narset kill me? And now I have to have this tiebreaker for Worlds in the same matchup against Matt Sperling, a matchup I just lost? Is that what's actually happening to me right now because I kill a Narset?
Totally. That's exactly what's happening, because now the Planeswalker party just got one bigger. There is the 8th loyalty going on to Teferi, and that is going to be the match going to Luis Scott-Vargas. He improves to 44 points. But more importantly for us, for the broadcast this week, he keeps Cifka at 45, and that means that he's tied with Sperling, and that means playoff. No tiebreaker math to be done here. It's who wins. That's how we figure out who's going to win the playoff.
That's right, and that's the only thing that matters right now, is just we're going to have a best of 3 matches, I believe, for it all between Cifka and